Los Angeles shimmered the way it always did, sunlight bouncing off glass towers, palm trees swaying like they were in on the secrets of the city. From the outside, it looked glamorous, effortless, untouchable. But for Holden and Claire, this trip wasn't about sunshine or second chances. It was about truth. And lies layered so deeply that even they weren't sure where one ended and the other began. To Genoa City, this was a business trip. A necessary one. To the people who mattered, it was a chance to regroup, to breathe, to reset. But underneath it all, Los Angeles was about to become the stage for two very different agendas, both hidden, both dangerous, and both capable of changing lives forever. The private jet hummed steadily as it cut through the clouds, but inside the cabin, the air was thick with unspoken tension. Claire stared out the window, her reflection faintly visible against the blue sky. Calm. Controlled. Perfect. Too perfect. Holden noticed it immediately. "You okay?" he asked casually, swirling the ice in his glass. She smiled without looking at him. "Of course. Why wouldn't I be?" "Because you've been like this since we left Genoa City," Holden thought. "Because you're acting like someone who already knows how this ends." But Holden had learned long ago that Claire didn't respond well to pressure, not when she was holding cards she wasn't ready to show. So he let it go. For now. What he didn't know was that Claire's mind was racing faster than the jet itself, replaying a phone call she'd received just hours before departure. A call that had changed everything. "Los Angeles isn't just an opportunity," the voice had said. "It's your moment. Don't waste it." Claire had told Holden this trip was about securing a West Coast partnership, a chance to expand influence and finally step out from the shadow of Genoa City's power players. That part was true. What she hadn't said was who she was really meeting. Because hidden among the glossy schedules and corporate luncheons was a quiet, off-the-books meeting with someone from her past, someone who knew things that could destroy reputations back home. Someone who knew the truth about how Claire really got where she was. And more importantly, someone who wanted something in return. Claire wasn't running from her past anymore. She was preparing to control it. Her goal in Los Angeles was simple on paper but dangerous in execution. Secure silence from a former associate. Retrieve documents that were never meant to exist. And make sure Genoa City never learned how close she once came to crossing a line she could never uncross. But the problem with secrets was that they rarely stayed obedient. Especially in a city built on exposure. Holden played his role well. The charming executive. The supportive partner. The man who trusted Claire completely. But trust wasn't the same as blindness. Holden hadn't come to Los Angeles just to support Claire's expansion plans. He had his own reasons, ones he'd buried beneath years of loyalty and restraint. Because Holden had started noticing patterns. Missing files. Quiet phone calls. Decisions that benefited Claire more than the company. And then there was the anonymous message he'd received days before the trip. "If you want the truth about Claire, come to Los Angeles. She already has." Holden didn't know who sent it. But he knew better than to ignore it. His agenda was careful, methodical, and fueled by a mixture of curiosity and dread. Confirm whether Claire had manipulated key deals. Discover if she'd been working with outside players. Decide whether protecting her, or exposing her, was the right move. Holden wasn't sure what scared him more. That Claire might be guilty, or that part of him hoped she was. Their first night in the city unfolded like a perfectly choreographed illusion. Dinner at a rooftop restaurant. Laughter under string lights. A view so stunning it almost felt fake. Anyone watching would have seen a power couple at ease. But under the table, Claire's fingers clenched tightly around her napkin. She was waiting for a message. Holden noticed. "You expecting someone?" he asked lightly. "Just business," she replied too quickly. That was the moment Holden knew she was already ahead of him. Later that night, Claire slipped out of their hotel room under the guise of a late-night walk. Holden waited exactly 5 minutes before following. Not close enough to be seen. Not far enough to lose her. What he didn't expect was to see her enter a quiet office building nowhere near their scheduled meetings. What he didn't expect was the man who stepped out to greet her. A man Holden recognized. And suddenly, Los Angeles felt a lot smaller. The man's name was whispered in Genoa City circles, but never openly discussed. A fixer. A deal maker. A man who cleaned up messes that powerful people couldn't afford to touch. And Claire was standing right in front of him. Holden watched from across the street as they spoke in hushed tones. He couldn't hear the words, but he didn't need to. This wasn't a casual meeting. This was leverage. Inside the building, Claire felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her chest. "You shouldn't have come," the man said. "You asked me to," she replied coolly. He smiled. "I asked for insurance, not a face-to-face." "Then say what you want," Claire said. "And let's stop pretending this is about closure." The man leaned in. "The documents are real. And they are dangerous. If they get out." "They won't," Claire interrupted. "Because I'm buying them back." He laughed softly. "With what? Money? Loyalty?" "No," she said, eyes hardening. "With your future." From his vantage point, Holden felt something crack inside him. Not anger. Not betrayal. Fear. Fear that the woman he thought he knew had been playing a longer, darker game than he ever imagined. And fear that whatever she was involved in, she was willing to burn bridges, or people, to protect herself. That night, Holden made a decision. He would stop reacting. He would start playing. The next morning, Claire acted as if nothing had happened. Confident. Focused. Impeccably in control. Holden mirrored her energy perfectly. Two people. Two agendas. One fragile illusion of partnership. But Los Angeles has a way of exposing fault lines. A surprise meeting request came in, one Holden hadn't arranged. Claire read the message, her face draining of color. "Something wrong?" Holden asked. She forced a smile. "Just unexpected." What she didn't say was that the fixer was pushing back. What she didn't know was that Holden had already received his own message, one that suggested Claire wasn't the only one being watched. By the third night, the city was buzzing with tension. Claire's deal was unraveling. Holden's investigation was closing in. And neither of them realized just how close they were to crossing each other's lines. At a high-profile industry event, secrets brushed shoulders with champagne flutes and camera flashes. The fixer was there. So was someone from Genoa City who absolutely should not have been. Claire locked eyes with Holden across the room. In that instant, they both knew. This trip was no longer under control. Later that night, back in their hotel suite, the silence finally shattered. "How long were you planning to keep lying to me?" Holden asked quietly. Claire froze. Then she turned, eyes blazing. "You followed me." "Yes," he admitted. "And I saw enough." She laughed bitterly. "Enough to judge me? Or enough to blackmail me?" "That depends," Holden said. "On whether you come clean." Claire stepped closer, voice trembling with something dangerously close to honesty. "If I tell you everything," she asked, "are you strong enough to hear it?" Holden didn't answer. Because deep down, he wasn't sure. This Los Angeles arc is setting up massive fallout. Claire's carefully constructed image is cracking. Holden is being pulled between loyalty and truth. Powerful outside forces are circling Genoa City. And secrets once buried are dangerously close to exposure. One trip. Two hidden agendas. And consequences that won't stay in Los Angeles. When Holden and Claire return to Genoa City, nothing will be the same. Because the scariest secret of all? They might already know too much about each other to walk away. And too little to survive what's coming next.